Hello, learners. Welcome to Lesson 27. This is Session 4. Notice that today we are going to develop finding the start time in word problems. That's new for us today. Last time we were looking for the end time. So remember, when you're looking at time, elapsed time, there is the start time, and then there is the end time. So last time we did this, they gave us the start time and we did some activities and we found the end time. Now we are going to get the end time. They're going to give us some activities and we have to figure out the start time. So we're going to kind of have to work backwards today. Okay, let's go ahead and look at our word problem. Notice that when we have a word problem, we do our 3 reads. The first time I read it, we're just going to figure out what's going on and who's in the problem. Mark's guitar lesson starts at 5:20 p.m. It takes Mark 15 minutes to get to his lesson from his house. Before Mark leaves, he has to do chores for 25 minutes. What is the latest time Mark should start doing his chores to get to his lesson on time? Okay, who is our problem about? You're right, it's about Mark. And what is going on for Mark? He wants to make it to his guitar lesson at 5:20. And what has to happen before that? Okay, he does have some chores he has to do. And it does take him some time to get there. So he wants to make it to guitar lesson on time. So since he wants to make it on time, he has to make sure he leaves enough time so that he can travel, and he has to leave time for his chores. Okay, so now let's go ahead and read it a second time and think about the numbers and what they mean in the problem. Mark's guitar lesson starts at 5:20 p.m. It takes Mark 15 minutes to get to his lesson from his house. Before Mark leaves, he has to do chores for 25 minutes. What is the latest time Mark should start doing his chores to get to his lesson on time? Okay, so what are some of the things that we need to know to solve the problem? What is the problem? Let's start with that. What is the problem? What do we have to find out? We get a hint here with the question mark. They are asking us, what is the latest time Mark should start doing his chores to get to his lesson on time? That's a lot of words. I wonder if we could say it easily in just a few words. What do we need to know? We need to know when Mark should start doing his chores. When should he start doing his chores? If he wants to make it to his guitar lesson at 5:20, he has to plan ahead. We need to know what time he needs to start. So what in this problem is going to help us figure out when he needs to start his chores? Okay, yep, he has guitar lesson at 5:20. So 5:20 p.m. is our end time, right? Because that's the time he needs to be at his guitar lesson. So he has to get everything done and then be there at 5:20. What else do we need to know? It takes him 15 minutes to get to his lesson. So 15 minutes to get to the lesson. And what else is there? 25 minutes of chores. Yep, he has 25 minutes of chores. Wow, that's a lot of information. Okay, I'm wondering how I'm going to solve this. Okay, I'm going to read it one more time, and as we read it a third time, I want you to think about how could you figure this out? Mark's guitar lesson starts at 5:20 p.m. I'm thinking in my head, that sounds tricky because it looks like a start time, but what that means is he needs to end all of his travels and his chores by 5:20. It takes Mark 15 minutes to get to his lesson from his house. Before Mark leaves, he has to do chores for 25 minutes. What is the latest time Mark should start his chores to get to his lesson on time? How could we do this? I'm thinking when we had to find When we had to find the end time, we used the start time and counted forwards. I'm wondering if we have the end time, we need to count, what do you think? We probably need to count backwards. So I'm thinking my strategy is going to be to count backwards. Now I'm sure there's a few ways that we can do that. So let's go ahead and turn the paper and get started. Okay, now on the back, we're going to explore different ways to understand finding the start time in word problems. We've already read it 3 times, so let's go ahead and start solving. Picture it. Oh, they'd used pictures. They used a clock. You can use a clock to find the start time. The clock shows 5:20, because that is when Mark's guitar lesson starts. And now remember, that was kind of tricky. This is really the end time because it's when he has to end all of his activities, right? And then he gets to start guitar. They have us count 15 minutes backwards, for the time it takes to get to his lesson. So here's 5:20. This is when guitar starts, right? This is when the guitar starts. So now let's count back his drive to the lesson. 5, 10, 15. Okay, 15 minutes. This is when he has to leave his house because it takes him 15 minutes to get there. But before he can leave his house, what do we have to do? That's right, 25 minutes of chores. So then count 25 minutes backwards for the time it takes him to do his chores. Okay, so let's go 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. This is where he has to start his chores. So since this is where he has to start, if we want to draw it on a clock, we now have to show the minute hand, right? Because he went back 15 minutes and then he went back 25 minutes. So our minute hand is now pointing towards the 8, which means 40 minutes. Now, as our minute hand goes backwards, what happens to our hour hand? It also has to go backwards. And since our minute hand went backwards past the 12, that means our hour hand has to go backwards past the 5. So notice that our hour hand now is before the 5 because our minute hand traveled past the 12, our hour hand traveled past the 5. Okay. Now we're going to model it. You can also use a number line to help you find the start time. The number line below is like the one used previously to find an end time. It shows times in hours and minutes. Each long mark shows 5 minutes. Each short mark shows 1 minute. Start at 5:20. Count back the number of minutes it takes Mark to get to his lesson and do his chores. Okay, so notice 5:20, this is where the guitar lessons are. Guitar lesson is at 5:20, right? And we're going to go back 15 minutes. 5, 10, 15. This is where he has to leave his house. And before he can leave his house, he has to do 25 minutes of chores. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So this is where he needs to start his chores. He starts his chores, he drives, and here is his end time, which is his guitar lesson. If you need to pause for a moment and catch up on your worksheet, go ahead and do that. Now let's get started on page 607. So go ahead and find that in the packet. Now we're going to connect it. Now you will use the problem from the previous page to help you understand how to find the start time in word problems. Explain why times are counted backward from 5:20 on the clock and on the number line. Why do we count backwards? Write down your idea. If you need to pause, pause. Okay, I think we have to count backwards because we have to, here we go, we have to count backwards to make sure he has enough time, right? Because we have the end time and the start time. We were given the end time, so we have to figure out, these are his activities. His activities take time, so we have to count backwards in order to make sure we get to the right start time. Okay, we are looking for the start time. Since this is when he has to end, we have to count backwards to include all of his activities. Okay, what is the latest time Mark should start doing his chores? Oh, let's go back and look. Okay, we decided this is where he has to start his chores. So what time is that? Remember, we write hours and minutes. Okay, so our hand is showing to the 8. 8 times 5 is 40. So it's 40 minutes. And our hour hand is not pointing to the 5 yet. The last thing it pointed to was the 4. So he has to start at 4:40 p.m. Let's go ahead and add that to our paper. At 4:40 p.m. Why did that hour number change? See if you can remember. We talked about that on the last page. Pause the video and write that in. Okay, so let's see if you got it. The hour number changed. The hour number changed because the minute hand went backward past the 12. Okay, so our hour hand had to go backwards too. Okay, number 3, explain how to find the start time when you know the end time and elapsed time. Okay, see if you can explain what we did here. If you have to, go back and take a look. See if you can explain it in your own words first. Go ahead and pause the video and then come back when you're done. Okay, so I would explain how to find the start time. So I would start at the end time and count backwards. To find the start time. Okay, look back at your Try It, the strategies by classmates, and picture it and model it. Which model or strategy do you like best for finding the start time in word problems? Did you like the using the clock and counting back by 5s? Or did you like the number line and counting back by the activities? Take a minute and write down which method you like. Pause the video if you need to. And when you're done, turn your paper over and we'll start on page 608. Okay, so use what you've just learned to solve these problems. Now I'm just going to do a quick 3 reads. So I'm going to kind of just check off that I've done my 3 reads and I can mark my word problems to notice the information I need. Mira finishes making fruit slices and sandwiches for lunch at 12:30 p.m. She cut up fruit for 10 minutes and made sandwiches for 7 minutes. What time did she start making lunch? Okay, first time. This is about Mira, and she's making fruit slices and sandwiches for lunch. Okay, second time, let's read it again. Mira finishes making fruit slices and sandwiches for lunch at 12:30. Ooh, I'm going to mark that. 12:30. She cut up fruit for 10 minutes. Okay, cut fruit for 10 minutes and made sandwiches for 7 minutes. Okay, made sandwiches for 7 minutes. What time did she start making lunch? What time did she start making lunch? Okay, I know who it's about. It's about Mira. She's making fruit salad. I have my information. She ends at 12:30 p.m. She had an activity of cutting fruit for 10 minutes, and she made sandwiches for 7 minutes. Okay, now I just have to figure out how I'm going to solve this. How are you thinking to solve it? Using a clock or using a timeline? Well, they've given us a timeline, so let's go ahead and try that. Mira finishes making fruit slices and sandwiches for lunch at 12:30. Let's find 12:30. Okay, here's 12:30. She cut up fruit for 10 minutes. Okay, now remember, are we counting backwards or forwards? Since this is the end, we've got to count backwards to get to the start. So we're going to go backwards 10 minutes. 5, 10. Okay, there's 10 minutes. Then she made sandwiches for 7 minutes. Okay, we've got to go 7. 5, 6, 7. 7 minutes. What time did she start making lunch? There we go. What time is that? Well, that's 12:15, so that's 12:14, and that's 12:13. So at 12:13 p.m., she started making lunch. Okay, take a minute to do number 6 and 7 on your own. Go ahead and give them a try. Pause the video, and when you're done, go ahead and restart, and we'll go over the answers. Okay, you should have noticed in number 6 that Carter is finishing cleaning his room, and that at 11:35 is our end time. You should have also noticed it took him 10 minutes to put away toys, and it took 4 minutes to make his bed. Then they wanted to know what time Carter started cleaning his room. So on our clock, if this is our end time, so we're going to put an E. And it took him 10 minutes to put away his toys, so let's count backwards, remember? So we're going to go backwards 5, 10. Then he had to spend 4 minutes on his bed. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our new hand, minute hand is going to be right there. Okay. So we went backwards 10 minutes, and then we went backwards 4 minutes. So what time is this? Well, since I didn't go past the 12, the hour hand stays between the 11 and the 12. So it is going to be, it's still 11, but what are my new minutes? Well, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 21. 11:21, and remember we're talking about AM. Did you do it right? That's okay. If you get it wrong, just fix it. If you got it right, pat yourself on the back. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 7. You should have tried this one as well. And you should have noticed that this is about Enrique going to his grandma's house, and he's doing some chores. So let's see what they give us. He walks 5 minutes to his grandma's house, or from his grandma's house to the store. He stops at the store for 20 minutes, and then he walks 10 minutes from the store to his house. This time he has 3 activities, right? He has to do 3 things. And his end time, he gets to the house at 6 p.m. What time does he leave his grandma's house? There's our question. What time does he leave his grandma's house? Because remember, he leaves the house, he walks to the store, he stays in the store, then he walks to his house. Okay, so if he gets to his house at 6, let's go ahead and count. Which way are we going to count? Backwards. Okay, he walks 5 minutes from grandma's house to the store. Okay, 5 minutes. There we go, put a 5. He stops at the store for 20 minutes. Okay, let's count 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. Then he walks 10 minutes from the store to his house. Okay, so let's go 5, 10. So this is where he started. So this is our end time up here. And now our minute time is going to, this is our start time. Okay, so what time did he leave his grandma's house? Well, if my hour hand switches, is it going to switch? Well, it's going to go, yeah, it is going to, because my minute hand has to, it's right at the 12, and it's going to go backwards all the way to here. There's my minute hand. So my hour hand is going to have to go backwards a little bit too. So our new time, I might have to sketch this. Okay, so my new time, whoops, right? I'm just going to kind of put in the mark so I know. So my new time, my minute hand is at the 5, and my hour hand is just before the 6. There we go. So it is going to be 5, what is that, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. It is 5:25, and we're talking about PM. How'd you do? Okay, now it is time for you to get started on the practice of your own. If you go to page 609 and 610, they do give you another example, and then you can solve the problems on your own. Be sure to do both sides, and when you're done, you get to watch part 2 of the video, and I'll go over the answers. Good luck!